Welcome in. We're back, baby.
Joint pod, let's go.
Yeah, man, it's been a while.
It has.
How's it? How are we doing? How's it going today?
I mean, getting back into the swing of things.
It's it's that weird time where it's not quite the off season.
To be honest, I'm phenomenal. My Bills are good.
The Bills are good.
Hockey starts today, and the Sabres are playing. So,
hockey is back.
This is not a podcast on which we mention hockey very much, or other sports in general at all.
That's all right.
It is back, and
I like the Flyers. They beat Pittsburgh yesterday, so that was cool. There's nothing wrong with
that. There you go. Congratulations.
Yeah, I'm never upset if the Penguins lose. Sorry, Pittsburgh.
Just segue. We'll get there to football, but the Sabres play the Flyers pretty soon. So.
Oh, do they?
Rivalry.
I know it's a weird, not weird, but it's accounting for COVID this year. But the schedule is strictly, you're only playing the same 7 or 8 teams this year in what I think is a 50 some odd game regular season.
Yeah, it's a weird one, and it'll be interesting to see how football handles it next season too. And I think the NFL handled themselves this year pretty well.
They did a pretty good job, and
they had to course correct a few times. They had teams
right.
with the Oakland Raiders and the Tennessee Titans and stuff having some issues here and there, but I feel like they handled themselves pretty well.
We did it again. It's Vegas.
Oh my god!
We did it again.
Oh my god! Sorry, bro. I'm sorry.
But no, hopefully by the time football starts up again, there's a decent chance fans are allowed back to games. So. Maybe
at least more than have been currently.
Yeah, more than what was the case for most teams this year who weren't allowed to allow any fans. So hopefully brighter days ahead for football. But today's a bright day here on the Face Mask Podcast. We are back, John and Nick, back together again for a joint segment, and today we're going to take a sneak peek, a super early, way too early, whatever you want to call it, look at first round mock draft 2021 redraft.
Because we're fiends and we already turned the leaf and we're ready to draft basically today.
I mean,
I am, bro.
I would.
If I could just jump into another season right now, I would, because I'm a method for this stuff, bro.
Well, the best balls start up in April, I think. So only got to wait a couple more months.
I'll be in there.
It'll be happening. Until then, though, take a little early look at, again, with the first round of drafts, more often than not, you're getting a stud, but that's when you do your most nitty gritty research because you're looking for any little edge that you can find. So why not kick it off as soon as we possibly can and just not, try to knock this out. Take a look at the first round.
This will be an interesting year because coming into last season, everybody kind of knew who the top 3 guys were going to be.
Mm-hmm.
It was Christian McCaffrey, Saquon, Zeke, in some order.
Yeah, that was the chalk.
And I feel like this year, it's kind of a little bit more up in the air because Saquon Barkley got injured, Christian McCaffrey got injured, and a lot of these players that, we had ranked 7th or 8th coming into the season, even 9th or 10th, were ranked number 1 and number 2 and number 3.
Yeah, there's a little less certainty at the top of the draft, at least today, looking down the line for 2021. So why don't we just kick things off as we try to navigate those waters? So, and this is going to be half PPR. Obviously, some people play standard. If you play in the Stone Age or full PPR, we're going to be looking at half PPR. So account for that as the scoring setting for this. And John, I'm ready if you are. If we want to just jump right in, and take a look at this.
Who is your 2021 first pick?
So I do think, despite the fact that he only played 3 games, I think it makes a lot of sense to just go back to the well here because the talent level is out of control. With the first pick in the 2021 fantasy redraft, I'm still going back to Christian McCaffrey.
Okay.
It's a phenomenal talent. it's year 2. Assuming Joe Brady doesn't get a head coaching job, it's going to be year 2 of the same offense. So there's a little bit more familiarity. And even when McCaffrey played in those 3 games, despite the injury, he was awesome in those games. He averaged over 20 fantasy points per game in the 3 games that he played. And, just look at the Panthers offense. Mike Davis was an RB1 this year. So
he was a back end RB1, but the fact that he was able to perform at an RB1 pace and just knowing what Christian McCaffrey does in his sleep,
right?
I mean, just you had said it coming into the season that you were a little bit worried about the 400 touches. He's going to get an off-season arrest. He's already basically had a year off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he dealt with some injuries here and there that kept him off the field later into the season. But he's going to come into next season with a chip on his shoulder, fresh, ready to go, ready to show the NFL that he's still the same guy, and he's still a young player. He's not an old guy.
No.
So he's going to come in and he's going to have a chip on his shoulder. This offense, I think, will take another step forward under Matt Rule.
I think so too.
I think they took a step forward based off of the year before last year coming into this season. I mean, you saw what Robbie Anderson was doing early in the season. You saw what Curtis Samuel was doing and stuff. So yeah, I think that this team, and they'll probably lose Curtis Samuel, right? So a lot of that, some of the rushing and some of the versatility that got thrown his way in the offense and the structure of the offense will probably be put on McCaffrey's shoulders.
It all will go right back to McCaffrey as one of the most dynamic players in the NFL. So
I got a question for you.
Despite the small sample size,
do you think he's gonna get close to 400 touches again?
Sure. Yeah, I don't see why not. I mean, they signed him to that contract. He's got the first round NFL draft pedigree. The offense flows through him, or I think that's what the Panthers want to do. They're going to funnel production to him.
Because he's the type of fantasy player where if you have him and he's getting 400 touches, you might as well you're in the championship. It's whether or not you win the championship, but pretty much, unless the rest of your team is just horrible, he's the type of guy that can carry you. He can carry you deep into the playoffs. Yeah.
Exactly. You're at least in the playoffs with him. I think despite having only played 3 games, I still think he's chalk. He goes right back up to the top of the draft board for me in 2021. So, yeah, first pick, lock it in, Christian McCaffrey. I just, and there are some stellar players to choose from, but to me, he still stands out as the top option.
I can't disagree with you at all.
So
I just can't.
There you go. I mean, it seems
that guy.
I don't think there's going to be too many people that deviate from McCaffrey in 2021. This, though, after that is where it gets interesting in my mind. John, who are you taking second?
And you're right. This is where it does get interesting because you have a choice of guys here who I've typically not been super high on in the past or have just never had on my teams. But half PPR, I'd probably have to go Alvin Kamara, bro.
Yeah.
I'd probably have to go Alvin Kamara just because the only thing is whether or not, is Drew Brees going to be in this offense?
Sure.
But even so, he was still performing Taysom Hill, but not quite to the same level. So, this is kind of hard to judge.
The pass catching went way down, but let's go ahead and assume for the sake of argument that Drew Brees returns for one more season.
Okay.
You still taking Kamara at 2?
I don't know, man.
See, to me, if Drew Brees comes back, Kamara is the second pick.
If Drew Brees comes back, yes.
I
agree.
If he
doesn't, I think you move him way down.
Yeah, I think he becomes a lower end first round pick.
This is a guy who's never been, he's never rushed for over 1,000 yards in a season.
No, he's not a between the tackles guy.
He's a guy that makes his money through the pass game as a running back. He's just an offensive weapon.
Yep.
He's just, for his team, he's an offensive weapon, and Drew Brees knows how to get him the ball. And that offense just comes when Alvin Kamara is going. But so yeah, caveat: Drew Brees still playing. He's my second guy. So let's just roll with that.
Yeah, I agree with that. With that analysis, if Brees is back, Kamara is an easy top 3 pick, and at this point, I think it's fair to say he's just top 2 because he does have some durability on his side. He has proven he has been durable as at the running back position. If Drew Brees is gone, retires, he falls out of the top 3 and maybe tumbles even a little further than that for me. But right now, today, Drew Brees is in that offense. I'm locking Kamara in at 1.02, so I'm in lockstep with you there.
And Alvin Kamara, quietly, I mean, he's every year after year after year, he puts up these crazy receiving numbers for a running back where you're just like, wow, how does this guy do it? But this year was his best year receiving since his rookie year. His rookie year, he had 826 yards through the air and 5 touchdowns, and he hasn't been able to eclipse 709 since. This year, he got to 756 and got those 5 touchdowns and was still able to be hyper effective on the ground. He's actually slowly gotten better on the ground, and this past year was his best year on the ground and his closest year to getting to that 1,000-yard mark on the ground. He was at 932, and he had 16 touchdowns on the ground. So this guy's just a touchdown machine.
Yeah, and an elite offense with brilliant offensive play callers on his side.
I got a question for you. How much of that touchdown number is due to not having Michael Thomas for the majority of the season?
Sure. I mean, that obviously played a role. So you can expect some negative regression there next year. That being said, he's such a dynamic talent. If Brees is back, if that offense is fully healthy and full systems going into 2021, he's the number 2 pick. He might not get 16 touchdowns, but maybe it's closer to 10. You'll take that.
Yeah.
You'll take that. So I'm good with Kamara at 1.02. I figured you might do that, so I'm gonna take a stab at 1.03 right here.
Go for it.
I've got some concerns with durability, but the talent can't be denied. In half PPR, I'm going Dalvin Cook. Had a phenomenal year for the Vikings. Will continue to be the focal point of that offense. We'll see what happens in the draft. There are a lot of Vikings fans want the team to somehow find a way to move on from Kirk Cousins. Regardless, though, of the personnel, they want to run the ball. If Mike Zimmer is still the head coach, I've seen no inkling or suggestion that he's going to get fired or is going to be removed. They want to run the ball. That's their identity on offense. They are going to funnel production through Dalvin Cook. You can probably bet he's going to miss at least a game here or there. He gets dinged up in game. This year, he came back from those injuries. Previously, he hadn't. There have been times where he would go down in games, and that would be the end of his day. This year, you saw him go down a few times, but he got back up and got back into the game. So, is he able to do that again next year? We'll see. And he got paid, so that's a factor as well. He has his money, but he's an excellent talent. He's an explosive player. Big play waiting to happen. Can catch the ball, has no problem doing that. To me, it feels like these 3 players that we just named are or will be the consensus top 3, especially in half or full PPR. But I do think Dalvin Cook, again, as long as if the offenses look like at the start of 2021 like they do today, to me, Dalvin Cook makes a lot of sense at the 3rd pick.
Now, this is a guy who has never finished a full season.
Right. Doesn't
His
happen.
highest game total is 14 games. And this past season, he had 366 touches.
It's a lot.
And do you think there's in the realm of possibility that he has a little bit of a Christian McCaffrey step back due to injury next year just because he's an injury-prone guy, and he had such a heavy workload this season?
It could happen. I'm less concerned about that, though, because in a way, sometimes poor durability is not necessarily a bad thing year over year because your previous year's production is not significantly It's not very big. It's not very high. So yes, he had a big workload this year, but no, it was not that 400 touch threshold that we all worry about.
40 touch, less than 40 touches away from it.
Sure, it was. He got pretty close to it.
And he would have gotten there had he played 16 games.
Had he
so really,
healthy.
if you're looking at a per touch per game basis, he was probably on pace for the same amount of touches
he was on
McCaffrey
pace.
got last season.
Yeah, he was.
And
he,
as a
no
more
doubt was on
injury
pace.
prone player, I mean, I could see a route to him being next year's Christian McCaffrey.
Christian
in
McCaffrey
terms
of
just-
2020.
right. So that's where I have a little bit of pause on him. But I don't think it's enough for me to shy away from him just because you're right. This is a run first team, and he's a great running back.
Yeah, he stands out from a talent perspective. He stands out from a perspective of he's the focal point of what the Vikings want to do on offense. I take the risk, the injury risk, with the monstrous upside that a guy like Dalvin Cook comes with.
Okay.
I like him at that third pick. And you just mentioned there were injuries to players who we thought were the consensus top 3 last year. So it's anybody's guess who will actually stay healthy and who won't. What I do know is Cook is elite. When he's on the field, he gets the rock and he's productive.
Can't disagree with you there.
So yeah, I lock it in, and I'll worry about that concern when it's, when the time comes where I have to figure out what to do if he has to miss a game or two.
Okay. I can't disagree with you there. I really can't.
Cool. Who you got at 1.04?
1.04. This is where it gets.
This is really where it starts to get interesting.
Because, you could go with the guy like Zeke, or you could go with the guy that I'm going to go with, and that's Derrick Henry.
Ooh.
This is a guy. How can you stay away from a guy that just went over 2,000 yards and has never played less than 15 games in a season, and really has no competition in his backfield?
He's freaking awesome.
While he's never relied on on any receiving prowess, he's been a battering ram. He isn't the guy that's going to catch a ton of passes. This is a touchdown machine. He had 17 this past season.
Yep.
He's good for 126.7 yards per game.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
He's just steady, and that's not even doing him enough justice. The guy is a monster.
And then you look at the turnover that this team is going to have. They're not going to have Corey Davis there. They're most likely not going to have Jonnu Smith there anymore, because those are both guys who were in contract years last year, who are going to be on the open market this season. Mm-hmm. So there's a chance that he sees a slight uptick in targets next season.
Which would be insane.
So it would
more
be
touches.
It would be insane, because this is also a run first team. But unlike the Minnesota Vikings, this is a hyper efficient offense.
Yep.
With Ryan Tannehill. So there's possibly, I would say that there's more of a route to accumulating touchdowns than even a guy like Dalvin Cook, who is known for his huge touchdown upside. I think there's more touchdown upside with Derrick Henry because the offense is better.
Higher chance for maintaining consistent production, because the offense, like you said, is incredibly efficient.
Right. And yeah, just with all the question marks in Dallas right now, I'm just gonna say Derrick Henry's my number 4 player in going into the 2020 draft right now.
There you go.
If I had the number 4 pick and Derrick Henry and Zeke were on the board, Derrick Henry. And it really wouldn't take that much thinking for me.
So the one concern I do have with Derrick Henry is he did eclipse 400 touches.
This is a different guy.
I know, he's such a different monster. He's an animal. I that is the one thing. Like you look at the dude and he's a linebacker playing running back.
And you look at,
he's not a little guy.
Dalvin Cook has been injured every year.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter his workload. Derrick Henry has been healthy every year.
Mm-hmm.
He's 247 pounds.
Yeah, try tackling that.
Dalvin Cook's 210.
Yeah, so
no, this guy, no.
He's a beast.
Teams don't want to tackle him.
Right, especially late when he seemingly gets stronger as the game goes on.
Right. So yeah, this guy, I would honestly think about maybe even putting him third. I mean, it's the choice
He's the
at
model of
3 was a
consistency.
choice between Dalvin Cook and Derrick Henry for me, and yeah. So if I'm at 4, I don't think there's any way I couldn't come out of that pick without Derrick Henry. He's just been too good and too steady for too long.
There are always exceptions to a norm, and to the point of 400 touches. It's hard to imagine a guy like Derrick Henry falling off just because he touched the ball a lot. Because he's so big, he's so strong, he's such a factor in what the Titans want to do. And all of the advanced numbers and stats love the Titans and suggest that Ryan Tannehill is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. So you want to draft guys that are going to be on good offenses attached to good quarterbacks. And while that doesn't necessarily directly mean that he's going to catch passes, it's an elite offense where he's the first option.
Yeah, and I want my running backs to get a lot of touch.
Derrick Henry does that,
right? When I look at who I'm looking at for a running back 1, I want the most touches I can get. I want above 20 for sure. And this guy got above 20 touches in 12 out of 16 games last season. So he
Fire him up.
30. He eclipsed 30 just on the ground in 2 of them. I mean, this guy's going to get the workload, and he produces. And that's all I got to say, really. I mean, he had 2,000 yards, bro. 2,000 yards.
He's a monster. The fact that he's likely only going to go 4th, I guess that's a testament to the rest of the talent at the top of the league. But I do think the pick makes sense. 1.05. There's some really interesting names that are left on this board right now. I might be inclined to go a little contrarian here. Now, a lot of this is similar to what we were saying about Alvin Kamara and his ADP being contingent upon the personnel that is there. This particular player is going to need to remain with his current team for me to want to take him here. But let's just go ahead and assume he does. At 1.05, I am taking Aaron Jones if he is still with the Green Bay Packers. Now, to your point, I like guys who get, in the first round, you want to make sure you get a guy with a full workload, lots of touches. That's not Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones does not get 20 touches a game. He might be more along the lines of 15 touches a game. But he averages over 5 yards a touch for his career. And Aaron Rodgers, his quarterback, had a resurgence this year as the likely league MVP. So he remains in a highly efficient, highly elite offense. He saw the negative touchdown regression this year from 2019, and he still missed 2 games and still finished as the RB5. So I am willing to bet that I'm willing to bet a couple things. One, I'm willing to bet the touchdown number goes back up a little bit by at least 1 or 2 in 2021. I'm also willing to bet that Jamal Williams walks because the Packers drafted A.J. Dillon. So I think Aaron Jones's workload, again, if he stays in Green Bay as the lead back, is safe behind a great offensive line attached to one of the best quarterbacks of all time. I think Aaron Jones remains that dude as a hyper-efficient, big play waiting to happen. Didn't finish with less than 10 fantasy points in any game that he played in all of 2020. The massive workload isn't there, but you can rely on his production on a week-to-week basis in a way that you cannot with many other players.
Yeah, and he was the guy that I did not mention as a contender for the 4th pick for me. With that last pick, it was between Henry and Zeke. I wasn't even really thinking Aaron Jones.
As an Aaron Jones stan, I would say that's tough.
I'm under the impression that he's not in Green Bay next season.
Yeah, I think he might leave. But let's just, I'm operating that he's a Packer right now.
From all the rumblings that I have heard, he wants to get all the money he can. So
As he
he's going
should.
to go in highest bidder because, right, as he should. So that's why you didn't hear me talk about him at all.
Right.
But if we are operating under the assumption that he is a Green Bay Packer next season, absolutely.
Yeah,
This
I think
guy's
it makes a lot of sense.
absolutely worth the 5th pick. This guy's, like you said, hyper efficient. And like, what if he gets more than the 201 attempts that he got through 14 games last season?
Oh, he goes right back up to being the RB2 on the season that he was in 2019.
This is a guy that was close to getting to 300 touches, and we've talked about the 400 touch wall. If he was to get 320 touches, which I don't think is out of the realm of possibility, I think this is a guy that does
overall RB1
should command that. If he wasn't on a team with Aaron Rodgers, who's just chucking it all over the place, I think there's no way that this isn't a guy who wouldn't command 330, 340 touches.
There are games where the Packers and Matt LaFleur, the only conclusion you can draw is there are games where sometimes they want to keep him fresh. They don't want to play him and use him in a role that requires a massive workload. So there are games where it's like, what the hell? Why are you not using him more? You're going to get that with him in Green Bay 2 to 3 times a year. It's going to happen. But the consistency can't be ignored. He's rock solid. He delivers every weekend, every Sunday. It might not be a high-end RB1 performance every year, but he literally never fell out of the top 36 in any game that he played this year. That is the model of consistency. I have no problem, even with some big names still on the board, taking him with the 5th pick.
And like we said before, we like teams that we like having running backs on teams with good quarterbacks because the implication is the offense itself scores a lot of points.
Yep, stays on the field, scores points.
Going to be in the red zone a lot.
Yep.
Not only is this guy a home run hitter, this guy can break a long run and be in the end zone from anywhere on the field. This is an exceptional red zone player.
Yep.
For a smaller guy, he is an exceptional red zone player.
Oh, he's got a nose for the goal line.
He had a resurgence based off of the past couple of seasons. His yards per carry average was looking like it was going down last season, and then this past season it went right back up to where it had been in 2017 and 2018. So when you look at that, it probably wasn't Aaron Jones. It was the whole offense, because as we know, the offense kind of sputtered in 2019. Mm-hmm. But yeah, this is a guy, 5.5 yards per carry, book it.
Lock it in.
I mean, I think you can almost book it now. He's going to get nine or more touchdowns.
Oh yeah.
If he sees the touchdowns that he got in 2019, he had 16 in 2019, so he can get up there and have Kamara-like touchdown levels. And
I agree.
So yeah, I think this guy's great. I think this guy is a Alvin Kamara light. And the light is, he's almost there.
He's not that far off.
So close to being right there.
He's not that far off from him. So, yep, I feel good about taking him with the 5th pick here.
Yeah, I do too.
Cool. Moving right along. Who you got at 1.06? There's still some good names on the board.
I think this is where I have to go Zeke. And it's not a guy I'm excited about. It's not a guy I'm excited about, man.
Nah, say what you got to say.
This guy was great.
Yeah.
When Dak Prescott was playing.
Yeah.
This guy was putting up 20 points, 30-point games all through up to week 5, and then the whole offense just shut down, so he shut down.
Right.
And
offensive line injuries all across the board.
Right. So I think
Ben DiNucci started a couple games at quarterback.
I'm going to repeat it again. In the first round with the running backs, or just with running backs in general, you want to be tied to running backs and good offenses. And Zeke was not in a good offense for 11 games last season.
Right.
When Dak comes back, he's going to be right back up there with some of the best running backs in the league, I think. Yeah, I think he's starting to get up there in age a little bit. And you got to think about that. But look at the efficiency he was playing with it in this offense when Dak was in.
Trying to see how many touches he had last year.
He was getting those 30-point games last year.
In 2020, yeah. With the first 5 games
in 2019, he had 301 touches on the ground.
Okay.
In 2020, he had 244.
So workload's not a concern.
Right. And honestly, if he had the same workload that he had in 2019, in 2020, he would have eclipsed the 1,000-yard mark. And a lot of people are looking at his yardage totals from this year and saying Zeke's fallen off. He only hit 979.
Yeah, he's getting older. He's the workload, the wear and tear.
Right.
Right.
I think with Dak back, because I think Dak is a top 4 quarterback in this league.
No doubt. At least fantasy wise, yes.
Right. Yes. Sorry. Caveat. Fantasy quarterback.
Fantasy
He's a
quarterback.
Top 4 fantasy quarterback in this league. I think he jumps right back up there and is a mid-tier to upper tier RB1 week in, week out.
Yeah.
For at least the next season, and then we'll reevaluate it moving forward into 2022. If we're talking about 2021 with Dak, he's going to be an RB1. I think he's very deserving of the 6th pick.
I grappled with Zeke at the 5th pick, but I think there's a little bit more stability in Green Bay, which is why I went the way I went. So there's a little bit of concern in Dallas with the offensive line. That personnel needs to improve. They lost a lot of pieces to injury. So hopefully they can get back a little bit healthier, and maybe they can find some help in the draft or free agency. If the offense is back fully healthy, I have no reason to believe that Zeke has fallen off yet, and is still an easy first round pick. Not the top 3 slam dunk that he used to be, but he could look like a top 3 running back in 2021. I have no reason to believe that he can't. If Dak and the offense is able to stay healthy for the entire season. And that's typically the trend that we see in the NFL. So you saw them fall off this year. There's reason to believe in a bounce back for the entire Dallas offense as a whole in 2021.
Right. And there are some pieces that are going to be catching the ball, that have been catching the ball in Dallas, like Michael Gallup. I think he's elsewhere next season. Wasn't he in a contract year?
He is in a contract year, so he may not be back.
Yeah. So I think there's going to be even some more targets available in this offense, and I think some of that will trickle down to Zeke.
Yeah.
Even though he's not known as a pass catching back, he's kind of an all around guy who can do it all. I think he's going to get a little bit more passing down work, because they're going to go back to having 2 studs instead of 3 guys who can really air it out to. So yeah, I like Zeke at 106, and
he can do that. He can catch the ball. No, it's a good spot for him. That being said, 1.07. This is where in half PPR I start to think about the top receiver on the board, but there's a name right here that I can't ignore anymore. I got to go Saquon. I have to take Saquon Barkley.
Oh my God, I forgot about Saquon. Dude, I would have...
well, it happened.
It's too late.
You locked in your pick. You locked in your pick. That means that's my... Your trash is my treasure. I'm grabbing Saquon at 1.07. The guy who I personally liked as the first overall pick in 2020. That didn't work out because he got injured in the second game. Can't predict injury. I think Saquon Barkley returns. Now, he's had injury issues the past 2 years. He missed essentially all of 2020 with a torn ACL. And he missed a lot of time in 2019 in his sophomore campaign before coming back in the second half of the year and really turning it on. So Saquon's build, his physique is amazing, but it also leaves him susceptible to injuries. So there is some concern there. His long-term outlook, it's a little worrisome, but he's still young. He's only going to be going into his 4th year. He has no workload concerns from the past 2 seasons, so he will be fresh. The Giants are going to have a little bit of stability this year going into year 2 with the same coaching staff, the same offense. The offensive line would ideally be a little bit better. Daniel Jones doesn't instill a whole lot of confidence yet as an NFL quarterback, but he's good enough to hand the ball off to Saquon. And I think if he's healthy, Saquon goes right back to being the focal point of the offense. No reason for me to believe that he doesn't see 300 touches if he's healthy. If the Giants' pass catchers are all back and healthy, if Sterling Shepard, if Evan Engram, if the offense as a whole is healthy, Saquon is elite. He's dynamic. The Giants invested the second pick in the draft in him not too long ago. So he is going to see the rock if he's on the field. At the 7th pick, first round, I'm not sure how much more I have to say because for the past 2 years, he's been a guaranteed top 2 pick. Saquon Barkley, 1.07.
Yes. The only thing that gives me pause is his injuries.
Right. That's the one concern.
I was watching that game when that injury popped off.
Yeah,
and
sucked.
it looked like he injured himself, and then they threw him right back out there, and he injured himself, and he was clearly in pain. And then
that's
back out
right.
There, and then
he got hurt,
again.
came back, and then he tore the. Yeah, that's right. That is what happened.
And they brought him back into the game 3 times before he tore his ACL. So I'm like,
that's sloppy by the Giants.
Yeah, man. So
I can't deny his talent, though. I can't ignore it. He's too tantalizing. I don't know if that's just
stuck in my mind as I saw that. And so to me, the injury feels like it's worse and feels like it could be one that it's harder to come back from. But this is a guy who was like running 3 weeks after the injury, wasn't he, or something?
Wasn't
he doing something crazy?
The rehab started relatively quickly, even though it was, he had no chance of returning, but the rehab started pretty fast.
This is a guy that's a physical freak. We can't be judging him by even baseline NFL standards, and they're all physical freaks. But this guy is like another level for another level. So this, I have to tell myself not to have reservations about that because of the type of player that we're talking about here. He's coming into really his 3rd full season.
Yeah, third season where he will actually play.
And this offense is going to have less offense around him, really.
Yeah, I think he's going to be the guy.
Evan Ingram's going to be gone. Sterling Shepard's a year older. Golden Tate, who knows?
Whatever.
He's technically still signed there, but he's not somebody who can command.
He's not the focal point. It's Saquon.
You know what my point is here. This isn't going to be one of those offenses that's just a high-powered offense, and we want the running back on that offense. This is kind of the flip side. This is a lower-tier offense with just a guy that you can't look away from.
Phenomenal talent.
He is going to be the heartbeat, the heart and soul of this team. Everything is going to run through him. So yeah, and I was stupid. I would probably put him above Zeke, but I wasn't thinking.
This is why we do way too early rankings. Yeah.
You win this round, Nick.
I will take that. Well, why don't we try to find a way to recover from that and figure out what are you doing at 1.08?
This is where I try to switch it around on you and go with a different position.
Okay.
And I'm not going quarterback.
Don't do that.
Trevor Lawrence. Ball. No.
I would welcome that.
All right. So it's really, to me, it's a choice between, do I go wide receiver or tight end here? And I think I have to go wide receiver here because we're talking about Devontae Adams.
Yeah. I think it makes sense here.
If we were ranking the fantasy point totals of every player, he came in 4th this past season.
He's a machine.
Behind Derrick Henry, behind Dalvin Cook, and behind Alvin Kamara, he was the 4th guy.
He's automatic.
So and
He's automatic.
I don't know how aggressive Green Bay is going to be about going and getting another bona fide,
they don't
Greg
really
Jennings to Jordy Nelson.
They don't really do that.
2 guys. I think they're just gonna kind of roll with what they have and build the trenches and roll into next season with basically, maybe Aaron Jones isn't there. If he is, I think they roll into the 2021 season with the same offense pretty much.
Yeah, maybe they draft some offensive linemen because David Bakhtiari suffered a season-ending injury late. So we don't know if he's going to be ready for the start of training camp. So you could see a left tackle drafted early for the Packers. So I'm not sure they are too concerned about drafting skill positions high or even dipping too deeply into free agency. That's not their MO. That's
Right,
not
and
how the Packers operate.
They found money with Tunyon, so they got their tight end group worked out. So
Right.
yeah, I think Devontae Adams is just a amazing player. He propelled me to the fantasy playoffs in the
Mhm.
league I was playing with you in, and he's just phenomenal, bro.
The chemistry with Aaron Rodgers, it's almost like they do it in their sleep. Like they just roll out of bed and know exactly where the other one's going to be, and they just 18
And the
touchdowns
thing is,
this year.
he is one of the best wide receivers at getting off the line.
Yep.
His explosion, specifically off the line,
Yep.
is on par with some of the best, most technical speed receivers out there.
Ever.
And he's a big guy,
Yep.
and he can do it all. He's got that Julio Jones type, be able to do it all build, but he's a guy that can get off the line like Tyreek Hill with the best of them and stuff. So he's just, if you're talking about physical freaks, he is the A1 physical freak for wide receivers. He's 28, firmly in his prime with one of the best quarterbacks around, and there's no sign of that changing. And this is where I pivot and start looking at wide receivers.
Yeah,
so
it
I
feels
have
weird.
To go Devontae Adams here.
It feels weird that he falls all the way to 8, but I mean, if you want to take him a little bit higher, I have no problem with that. The guy is a layup at the wide receiver position, averages a touchdown at home for his career. So I have no issue with it. I wish he was available to me here at 1.09, but he's not. So I'm going to actually stick with running back and maybe go a little against the grain again. I'm looking at the Indianapolis Colts, and at 1.09,
Nyheim Hines?
I love Nyheim. You know I love Nyheim, but I can't take Nyheim here. I'm taking Jonathan Taylor.
Okay, that is a swerve. All right, explain yourself.
Well, I think he's that dude. I think he proved to be that dude in the guts of the season. In the middle of the season, it looked like a full blown committee in the Indianapolis backfield with Hines
and he just straight
Jordan Wilkins. Yeah, he wasn't looking too strong. That all changed in the second half of the season. It felt like he was little Derrick Henry, getting tons of work, pummeling opposing defenders on the way.
He was getting touchdowns everywhere. He was getting touchdowns.
Multiple.
He had 2 touchdowns, 1 touchdown, 2 touchdowns, and 2 touchdowns to finish the
multiple
season.
Scores. Yep, multiple scores in multiple games. The guy is clearly going to be the lead dog in that backfield. The Colts have one of the best offensive lines in the league. I don't know if Phillip Rivers is going to be back. I don't really care.
I don't think so. I don't think he's back.
I don't think so, and I also don't care. Which even lends itself more to Taylor being the focal point of that offense. I think he is going to see a huge workload this year, and I think he's going to pay huge dividends because the news just broke maybe an hour and a half ago that the Colts are not committed to bringing Marlon Mack back. So if Mack is officially gone, this is Taylor's backfield.
So you're telling me how this affects Marlon Mack?
Right. My first thought when I saw that, I was like, well, how does this affect Marlon Mack? No, I think this affects Jonathan Taylor
guys.
greatly. Yeah, no, I know. It's a stupid joke.
Had to say it.
Can't ever get past it.
We're done now.
No, I thought about going Nick Chubb here. I have to take a long, hard look at a guy like Travis Kelce here. But to me, I like running backs in the first round. This dude's going to have a big workload. I think a guy like Jordan Wilkins, with all due respect to him, becomes an afterthought at this point. Taylor's the guy. They drafted him for a reason. He's in a good offense. I think the second year breakout is upon us.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, touchdowns on touchdowns to finish out the season. He
Yup.
finished out the season with his best game of the year.
Yep.
So if that's a sign of more things to come, then yeah, we're looking at a guy that could be Derrick Henry-esque. And we came into this year coming out of the draft saying this is the most physical, freakish running back in this draft class.
Oh, yeah.
This is a guy, if you're going to compare him to anybody, you should be comparing him to a guy like Derrick Henry.
Little Derrick Henry, yeah.
Right.
And
so,
like, not too much emphasis on the word little.
No. And throughout the season, when you were seeing him struggle, you just thought, well,
yeah, it was like, come
why
on.
is he looked like he was running into guys.
Yeah.
And it looked, and after the bye, it just looked like something finally clicked where he was
They
finally
figured it
running
out.
away from guys, and yeah, we saw it on the field. And yeah, I this is one of the best offensive lines in the league. It's one of the better defenses in the league.
In a division
So
where all
regardless of-
three of the other teams struggle against the run, yeah, I really like Taylor this year.
So really, yeah, you're right. Regardless of quarterback, even if they go to a guy like Jacob Eason, their backup.
Well, I hope not that.
You know,
but.
they're gonna have to rely on the run game, and I think he showed enough through the back part of this past year to warrant that pick. Now, the only thing I'm gonna be asking you here is why wouldn't you have gone with a guy like James Robinson?
Yeah, so
because if you look at rookies and rookies who performed, that's the number one. That's the banner guy, James Robinson. It's not Jonathan Taylor.
I have a hard time deciding what I want to do with James Robinson because he was so awesome this year.
By all accounts, he should be playing with a much better quarterback.
Right, but then to that point, I think the Jaguars with a new coaching staff are going to install an offense to the strengths of Trevor Lawrence. I think the Jags ran Robinson into the ground this year out of necessity, and also they weren't trying to win. There wasn't much of an effort for them to throw the ball this year, and with the quarterbacks that they had, there was not really much success. It's obvious now. It's easy to say now, but they were never going to have any type of success throwing the ball with Gardner Minshew and Mike Glennon and who else started games down. Yeah, Jake Luton. So this offense is going to now become catered around Trevor Lawrence, who the Jags will draft. We know that. And I think they're going to throw the ball more. I think they're going to throw with more success. I don't think Robinson sees the huge workload that made him the RB 4 or 5 on the year this year.
Fair enough. I just wanted a little bit of a clarification because
sure.
you know,
Robinson's hard to chart.
The first rookie you bring up is not the number one rookie running back for this past draft class. So.
No, give me the guy with the NFL draft pedigree.
I 100% see your point. 100% see your point.
So, Taylor's off the board.
Okay. All right.
We got 3 picks to go.
So I could go with a guy like Chubb here.
You could.
But I'm not going to just because there's another guy in that offense who can run the ball extremely well.
Yes, he can.
And by the nature of things, they're splitting the work.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to go tight end here, man. I got to go Travis Kelce here, man.
It's hard to argue. It's really hard to argue. He had one of the best seasons as for tight ends ever this past year. Ever.
Yeah. The dude is incredible.
He's a monster.
Absolutely incredible.
He's still only 31. Tight ends age pretty well. They don't rely on their athleticism as much. They're big and strong. So he's still only 31, attached to the best quarterback in the league, the best offense in the league. Yeah, I see it here.
Yeah, he put up wide receiver 1 number.
Yep. Ignore the tight end label when it comes to a guy like Travis Kelce.
1,400 yards and 11 touchdowns. Okay,
phenomenal.
That's wide receiver 1 numbers.
He had a phenomenal season.
That's what you want a guy like DK Metcalf to hit, and Travis Kelce hits that.
Yep.
So yeah, don't think of this guy as a tight end, but when you look at the other tight ends,
that's
and you look at the point disparity,
right?
You're basically what this adds up to is you're basically adding another roster spot and playing one extra player above the level of competition that you're facing.
Yeah. If you went bottom of the barrel this year,
good tight ends barely break 1,000 yards. The best tight ends,
right?
The best tight ends every year.
700, 800 yards is usually not awesome, but a very good year for tight ends.
Yeah. 800, 900 yards is top tier.
It's a good year, yep.
And 6, 7 touchdowns is top tier. This guy's doubling that. You're doubling up on good touchdown or on good tight end production.
Right.
With a guy like Travis Kelce.
Yeah, he doubled up on the tight ends like 2 and 3 this year. Maybe not Darren Waller, but he doubled up on everybody else.
And we've seen this once before. The guy, Gronk. When Gronk was in his prime, he doubled up the field.
It's 2 fantasy players on one
He
spot.
doubled up the field.
Yep.
And that's why people were in the mid 2000s drafting Gronk in the first round. He fell off, and then it was proven to be not worth it anymore. But Travis Kelce, he's still at the top of his game.
Mhm.
He's playing with the best quarterback in the world right now, who's young and is only going to conceivably get better.
Yep.
He's anywhere near falling off. And I just think you have to invest in a guy who gives you such a clear jump of production above the rest of the field.
Yeah.
Again, you're like you just said, like I just said, it's like drafting. It's like having 10 roster spots when the rest of your league has 9.
Yep.
When you draft a guy like Travis Kelce.
He's a beast. He's a stud. He's the clear top option at the tight end position.
I can't believe he was a 3rd round pick. I can't believe he was a 3rd round pick.
No. And yeah, I think there's no reason. I mean, will he get 1,400 yards again? That's ambitious, but he's still going to, he's going to be a top 2 tight end at worst.
He might not get 1,400 yards, but I think he can easily get 11 touchdowns.
Oh, yeah, he can get double-digit touchdowns any given year. So
right. And if he doesn't get 1,400 yards, he'll get 1,200.
Right.
And that's still almost doubling up the competition. You know what I mean?
He's unbelievable. He's a clear top-tier advantage at his position.
He's a league winner.
He's a league winner.
Plain and simple.
Yep.
That guy, there are very few guys at the best of the best who you can call league winners. Even in the rankings that we're just proposing to you now, there are very few of these guys who are considered league winners. And Travis Kelce is one of them.
He's that dude.
Yep.
The Chiefs' offense is awesome. So for him to fall to 1.10, got to feel good about that. For 1.11, I also could go Nick Chubb, but I'm sticking with that offense. I am pivoting for the first time, and with my last pick in this first round mock draft, I'm going Tyreek Hill. I mean, what can I say that you don't already know? He's the fastest dude alive.
I thought you were.
I'm not. I'm certainly not the fastest person alive.
For all of those who are listening, at one point in time, Nick was the fastest man on earth.
This is not true. I ran track and field in high school and college, and John saw me running on the beach one time.
I raced him once, and it was just like a blur. Maybe that was because I was drinking. Whatever.
We may have been imbibing, but yeah, Tyreek Hill. I mean, you just got done talking about Travis Kelce. You can kind of say the same exact thing about Tyreek Hill. He's an elite level talent. Again, attached to the best quarterback. Andy Reid loves to throw the ball. He's, like I can't even,
Didn't he get 5 touchdowns in one game?
22, had a 50 plus point explosion. 25. He has some down weeks here and there, but the upside is absolutely outrageous.
He had 56 points in 1 week.
In 1 week. There's his upside. I mean, some of this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 9, 10, 13, 15. So he had 15 touchdowns on the year. Like, the guy is going to be a top 3 receiver year in, year out. I think he might have missed a little bit of time this year too. Still had 15 touchdowns.
It doesn't look like he missed any time, and it looks like he really only had one down game in games that mattered. They weren't fighting very hard in week 16 against Atlanta. So his dud there, yes, it's in week 16. I'm not really counting that.
Yeah, I mean, he puts up monster production every year.
If you look at when this team is on trying to score points like a regular NFL team, he's a wide receiver 1 who will get you above, looks like 13 to 14 points.
Yeah.
His baseline's around 20, but he has the explosion to get you 60.
When it comes to wide receivers, the amount, the production is there, the consistency is there, but he's the type of dude where he only needs one play.
Yeah, they don't feature him in this offense. If you would say they really featured anybody, it's
Kelce.
Travis Kelce.
It's Kelce. He's the top dog.
So this is a guy that's doing it with, I wouldn't say minimal touches, but less touches than a lot of other guys who have this around the same point totals.
And still putting up wide receiver 1 numbers. Again, you know who Tyreek Hill is at this point. I'm not really sure how much there is that I can say that's left. He's a bottom end first round pick. And he's a monster big play waiting to happen every single Sunday.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that at all.
So we bring it home.
I guess we have to.
How are we ending this first round?
I don't love Nick Chubb, man. I
You
don't
don't,
love
you, don't-
him
you don't have to take him.
just because I know he plays with another great running back. That's the only
Mhm.
reason. Plays with another great running back. He just happens to be slightly better. He is.
I mean,
Slightly better than Kareem Hunt.
I think if it were me, I know this is your pick. I do think I would take Chubb here. But
Okay.
I mean, if there's another name,
No, I mean, I'm looking, and not a lot of people are sticking out.
I think he's the guy. I really do think Chubb makes the most sense. But I'll let you officially make your
No,
selection.
he is. He is. He's the guy. He's the guy.
Yeah, I mean,
'Cause,
he looks awesome.
Yes, he's splitting time. He's splitting work, and we look at the workloads of a guy like Nick Chubb versus the workloads of a guy like Derrick Henry, and Nick Chubb is getting like 2/3 of the work that a guy like Derrick Henry gets. So this isn't a guy that you're ever going to see, I think, get to that 2,000-yard mark unless Kareem Hunt goes down or something.
Right.
But that's in the realm of possibility.
Yeah, sure.
Nick Chubb went down for a 5-game stretch this season. And,
Yes, he did.
And Kareem Hunt filled in, so Kareem Hunt could just as easily catch a 6-game injury and be out, and Nick Chubb could be the beneficiary. This is not a team that shies away from running the ball. This is a run-first team. If they can take the ball out of Baker Mayfield's hands, they will.
Yeah, good offensive
And
line.
This is a guy that he averages about 18 to 20 fantasy points a game, and he's just about as steady as any running back out there. Now,
For
it did look
awesome,
early in the season. It did look early in the season like he had a little bit of. He was going to be a little bit spottier
yeah,
than we thought he was, but when he came back from his injury, he was the same guy.
right.
He was the same. He was steady. He was basically good for a touchdown a game. After his bye, there was only one game where he didn't get a touchdown, and he still eclipsed 100 yards on the ground. So yeah, this is just about as steady a guy as you can get.
He's awesome. He's awesome.
He's not going to have the 40-point games for you, but he's just about as steady an RB1 as I've ever seen in my 12 years of playing fantasy.
And as awesome as Kareem Hunt is, Chubb is the first man up in that offense. And at this point in the draft, you want the one. If it's a committee, you want the 1A. You want the 1A option, and it's not
and
Kareem
at this
Hunt.
point in the draft, I don't want committees.
Well, yeah,
that's what I'm getting at. But
sometimes there's just talent that you can't ignore.
He's the exception. You know,
Right.
I look at guys versus him versus a guy like Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs had basically the same amount of fantasy points as Nick Chubb and didn't have all the missed games in there. He missed one game, but if you look at it
Chubb
on
missed 5.
the point per game basis, Chubb
blows him out.
Chubb blows him out of the water. So yeah, you got to go with a guy like Chubb here. He's the model of consistency. He's good for 18 to 20 points a game every game he plays, and if in the event that Kareem Hunt were to get injured, or were to even catch another suspension or anything along those lines,
Chubb's a top 3 running back.
He would be a league winner.
Yes, he would.
Winner.
Yes, he would. I'm in agreement there. I think Chubb makes sense as our final pick in this way too early, but still fun enough to do it.
Still mad you got Saquon.
Well, you forgot. That's back to the drawing board for you. That completes our way too early first round projections for half PPR redraft. This was fun. I love doing this type of stuff. Getting this is when you get to break down the nitty gritty between from going from elite player to elite player.
Yeah, and I like the prospect of drafting again already. So
we
'cause I'm a
will
fiend.
we
So,
will
there you go.
assuredly continue to do more of these as the offseason rolls along. But for now, that concludes this way too early look at the first round. John, what do we got coming up? We got some playoff breakdowns coming up. I'm going to have some DFS picks.
DFS and regular. Yep.
I'm going to have
supplying us with some great content.
I'm going to have some DFS picks for the listeners so that you guys can set your lineups and maybe win a little bit of cash by the end of the day on Sunday. So absolutely continue to keep it locked here with us on the Face Mask Podcast as we continue to navigate through these new and improved and awesome NFL playoffs.